YouTube, long time no see. It's Tijon, aka Top Cyberdog, and I'm back with another video for the channel. Now, if you guys have watched my previous videos that I released, I spoke about my time in ECA Academy, Ellington Cyber Academy, and I spoke about, my struggles in the past, learning Splunk, getting comfortable with the platform, and that was a huge catalyst for me joining the ECA program. And some weeks back, I had just wrapped up on creating, testing, presenting for my first capstone for the program. And it was an experience. Definitely got my feet wet. Pitching a product such as Splunk Enterprise to a panel of judges, pretending to be a C-suite group for an organization seeking to utilize Splunk Enterprise for their log aggregation platform that would secure their future in the market, and make sure that they're not compromised in any way, preventing damages. And just being able to, come up with different use cases that I would present to the panel, and then actually pitching that to the panel and giving them my reasons as to why I chose these use cases and how it would propel their organization into the future, was great practice. I currently have a help desk position now, and that's something that I do not do in my day-to-day work. But I know once I do secure a security role, and as I continue to elevate in that role into other security roles in the future, I will probably be tasked with presenting and doing some kind of demonstration to C-suite managers in the future. And being able to do that capstone was practice, but also me doing this right now, getting on YouTube, getting in front of this camera, is practice with that as well. Being able to talk in front of some kind of audience, whether that be digital or live in person, is definitely a skill that I encourage everybody to work on. Forcing myself to do this has made me a stronger presenter, and really just taking it day by day, getting better 1% every day, compounds, and it builds up, and you'll notice the change. So I definitely want to say thank you to Kenneth Ellington, who owns and runs ECA, Ellington Cyber Academy. One of my instructors, Justin, for his continued work, making sure that the students of the cohort have an open space where they can ask dumb questions and, really fall forward and fail, be comfortable in failing, but then working towards success and making sure we understand everything that we're doing on the platform. So without further ado, I definitely want to show you my Splunk Enterprise instance, log in, get a feel for how everything is set up, take you into my dashboard that I presented to the C-suite judging panel for my Capstone 1 presentation night. And yeah, if you guys have any questions about Splunk Enterprise, a SIEM, how it works, how alerts work within Splunk, SPLs, different search queries, definitely drop a comment below. I'll do my best to get back to you. And if I don't know the answer, I'll point you in the direction of somebody who does. Key example, Kenneth. Anybody out there who's interested in the program, definitely reach out to me. I can definitely be a bridge where you can connect with Kenneth, ask him questions. And even in our last capstone night, we had some prospects, as far as students possibly looking to join the program, sit in and watch active students go through a capstone presentation. So if you're ever interested in learning about SIEM technology such as Splunk Enterprise, Microsoft Sentinel, Splunk SOAR as well for a SOAR platform, definitely look into a program such as Ellington Cyber Academy. The program has definitely been a game changer for me, and the value that I've gotten from it has been life-changing. Also, the community that we built up within the cohort and students from previous cohorts. So if you're an IT professional that's looking to get into security and you really don't have a strong network built up, this might be an opportunity for you to start working on that network. So as always, if you have any questions, please reach out to me. And without further ado, we're going to hop into Splunk and show you around. All right, let's go. All right, everybody, welcome to my Splunk Enterprise instance. We are already signed in. As you can see, top right hand corner, top CyberDog, that is me, and this is my instance. So I definitely want to just briefly go over Splunk Enterprise as a whole, and as far as what I've been doing inside of my instance. So just so everybody knows, my Splunk Enterprise instance has been installed on my AWS Lightsail instance. I don't have it loaded up here, so just so you know, I'm accessing my instance IP address up here, and it's being stood up on my Linux server. So that's how I'm able to access this address and then log in with my credentials. So once you sign into Splunk, you'll be presented with this GUI interface. As you can see right here, this is the search head. This is where you type in your SBL queries to essentially ask your data questions, and then based off of that search query, you get results back. And those results can be displayed in a number of different visualizations and dashboards and reports. So as you can see right here, this is what we're presented with. We got the time picker over here where we can adjust the time period of which different search queries are pulling data for. Right here we can see the search head, not the search head, but the search history. This is a list of various different SPL queries that I've queried up. Some coming back with data, some not, just depending on if my query was correct or incorrect. And then we can see up here we got some tabs. Of course, we're already on the search tab, got the analytics tab, data sets tab, reports, alerts, and dashboards. Then up here you can see apps. If we go down here to find more apps, we're presented with Splunk Base. And essentially what Splunk Base is Splunk's app store. So if we have any kind of devices in our environment that we want to parse log information for, we can definitely search for that here in Splunk Base to see if the vendor has some kind of app ready to go within Splunk Base. So for instance, let's type out Jamf. Say for instance, we have Mac devices in our environment that we want to start getting information on as far as metrics. If we're managing those Mac devices in our environment, we might be using a product called Jamf. Years ago, I was using a product. When I first got into IT, I was using AirWatch. AirWatch has been long gone, and the current industry standard that I've seen, especially in my current role, is Jamf Pro. So we might want to integrate this application within our instance to interact with data coming from our Mac devices. So the Splunk Base App Store, air quotations, is a definite great place to start if you want to integrate new technology in your Splunk instance. All right, so we're not going to go too much into that. I just want to give a brief overview as far as what the App Store in Splunk Enterprise looks like and what you can do. Over here, if we go over to settings, say for instance, we want to statically ingest new data to interact with or test, play with in our environment, we can do so here. All of the indexes that I have built up in my instance was statically added. If I click on that, it's going to take us here where we can then upload or forward set data to the Splunk instance. Normally in an environment either with a heavy forwarder or the universal forwarder, we would have installed on our endpoints that would automatically push the data metrics to our index in Splunk instance. But for my lab environment, I've definitely only utilized static data that I uploaded into my Splunk instance. And then of course, if we need to go into some administration in our account, we can, based off of different roles in our environment. As you can see right here, top CyberDog, I have full reign in this instance. And then I definitely tooled around, created a new user. Say for instance, we have a C-suite or manager that wants an account where they can go in and view certain things in the environment. We can definitely create accounts and administer those accounts as needed. And then of course licensing. So I'm working off of a trial. So I definitely reached out to Splunk to get licensing so I can upload more data and play around with the environment a little bit more than when I didn't have a license installed. Okay, so I'm just briefly looking over this to see if I'm missing anything that I want to go over. No. So we'll go ahead and hit the logo, and that brings us back to our home screen, and you're able to adjust what you see for your home screen as well. Me specifically, I just like seeing the search head right away because I want to get right into the nitty gritty. So you can set, for instance, if you have a dashboard that you would like to see right out of the gate, you can definitely configure that so you see that right away. But I definitely, now that we went over a brief overview of the layout for Splunk, during my time at ECA, Ellington Cyber Academy, we have been tasked with capstones, pretty much to culminate everything that we've learned in class, and being able to speak to that at a low level and a high level to a panel of judges, really to tie in everything that we've learned, and then pitching said recommendations based off of our capstone task. So if I click dashboards, let's see, we will be brought over to our whole hub of different dashboards. And if you can see right here, I have some that I've already created myself. We got one for dummy data for the Orlando Police Department. We have Splunk internal metrics. And then we have my first capstone that I worked on. And then my second that I'm currently in the process of building up. We're not even going to dive into that because I'm still working on it. But I definitely want to dive into what I included for my first capstone at Ellington Cyber Academy. All right, and I already have the tab loaded up with the dashboard, so we're just gonna hop right over. And I know what you're seeing right now, it's a lot. You're like, what is this? Looks like a whole lot of info, and it is. But before we dive into that, I definitely want to give a brief overview of what the task was for said capstone. Essentially, for my cohort, we were tasked with explaining to a panel for a dummy company that was facing an issue as far as growth and success. They were ingesting about 100 gigabytes of data, and they were seeing an increase to about 400 gigabytes of data being ingested or needing to be ingested from their environment. And this was in a short amount of time, about a month. So we were being tasked with how can we pitch to said company that Splunk Enterprise would be a viable solution for their problem. How we could ingest the current amount of data and ramp up to the 400 gigabytes of data and even more in the future with Splunk Enterprise, how Splunk could aid them as far as protecting that data, allowing analysts to monitor said data, and then of course query out that data for reporting to C-suite management, and even staying compliant with different frameworks currently in cybersecurity. So we had to come up with 8 use cases to pitch to the panel to, of course, show the power of Splunk Enterprise, but telling a story as far as, how the data ingested could be manipulated to tell a story and save the company money from any kind of impending attacks and any kind of threat actors that might be snooping around trying to get into our environment to do said attack with our data, which we don't want. So definitely it was great hands-on experience diving into Splunk, creating different use cases, and then of course being able to explain why I picked said use cases to explain the power of Splunk and what it can do. So I'm not going to go into my pitch decks, but I definitely want to get into all of this data. So as you can see, this is a very large dashboard, and everything that you see here, while it looks different, and it is different, think about this. Everything that you see here is pretty much just a search. So for instance, if we go to Google and we type in what color is the sky, that's essentially my search that I've just now pushed over into a dashboard, so you can see, for instance, with that data, if we ask, Splunk, hey, what's the color of the sky in this data set, Splunk should then tell us blue. Just on the fly, a quick way for me to tie that in, so if anybody's having a hard time understanding all of this, just understand I simply just typed out a search question to my instance and was populated with these responses and answers. So as you can see right here, I have some dummy data that was ingested into my account or my instance, and we can see right here, this is more so, the top half is the cybersecurity side of the dashboard, where we can essentially see logged cyber events happening in our fake company's environment. We have user information, timestamps, device information as far as what that user was using. We have source IP addresses, source ports, destination IP addresses, destination ports, protocols used in those network actions, and then malware indicators. We have some indicators detected. Did we have alerts triggered from those events? What type of attacks were they? Intrusion, malware, DDoS. And then what happened as far as our systems? Did we take action on it? Was it logged? Was it blocked? Was it ignored? What part of the network did that happen on? And of course, the geologic location. Where did this occur from? And did the user use some kind of proxy to do so? And where did those logs come from? So even with that, that's a lot of data. And of course, this is just a search. So I just queried this out in a search. So let me click on that. If we see right here, we can open that in search. So this table right here, we can then query that up in a new window to see the exact search. And then here we can see, like I said, everything that's displayed in that dashboard is just a search. So everything right here is the question that I asked to my index of attack, and this is what I was prompted with. So essentially I told the index attack to table out different columns based off of the raw data in the CVS file. So I wanted to see timestamp, I wanted to see user information, device information, source IP address. This can all be tailored to what management and C-suite want to see, or what you want to see as an analyst. just so you have everything at a full glance quickly and accurately. And then from there, I just tailored that information, sort by timestamp, renaming. I wanted to rename certain columns so it was much more cleaner in the view. And again, everything that was displayed in that dashboard, let's see, right here, was just a simple search. And of course, for anybody who's new to Splunk, that might take some practice getting used to the SPL and how to write certain queries. But of course, too, with the rise of ChatGPT, should be no excuses as far as you learning how to learn the basics. All right. And then from there, above the table, I just condensed the search even more. So if you see right here on the table, we have attack types. So there's a number of different ones. Management might want to know, hey, what's the top attack type in our environment right now? And then based off of my query, my question that I asked to my index, this is what we got back. So off of that data set, in our environment currently, we're getting a lot of DDoS attacks, which is distributed denial of service. And then I asked for the count. So how many events are happening based on in that data set based off of my query. And right now we have a total of 13,428. So this might be something that management and the security team needs to delve into further to see how can we mitigate and prevent this high number and this type of attack in our environment. And then of course, right over here, we have another query, total number of alerts logged in Silversmith's environment. So at a glance, we see right here, 13,195 currently. And then right above, we have a overall number of alerts triggered in our fictitious company's environment. All right. And then, like I said, same process. If we want to see what that search query looks like, we can prompt that to open. And then we can see right here my query that I then just decided to right up here save as a new into a new dashboard or an existing dashboard. And then of course, if a C-suite member wants to see that in some kind of report, we can do so as well. All right, we title it out report, add a description, test, and then get more granular from there, save it, and then it's live, and then we can adjust it as far as who receives said report and when, if we want to do some kind of interval. So as you can see, Splunk is very powerful as far as managing large data sets and then manipulating that so it can be displayed in different ways. We'll close out of that. And then moving on with the dashboard, we're moving away from the cybersecurity aspect that I put at the top, and then we're going more over into the sales. So again, this can all be separated where we just have a dashboard for cybersecurity metrics, and then we can move it over to a dashboard dealing with just sales and what that looks like for our organization. And that's what we did here. It's not what we did, but we included those metrics in that same dashboard that I presented to the panel of judges. And this is based off of another dummy data set that I believe is provided by Splunk themselves. It's dealing with a fictitious company called Buttercup Games. So you can upload that static data set and then tweak it to your liking as far as labeling and how you display the data from the data set. So I definitely labeled it as our fictitious company, but this is from Buttercup Games. Right here, we can see the total sales for our fictitious company. Again, it's just a query, search query. So we open it up here. We have source type, and then we have status 200. That's for successful checkouts. And then we have action equals purchase. And then I told Splunk to display that by stats count. And then that gets us the number that we see here for total purchases. And then we can change that, how it's displayed by the visualization right here. For my presentation, I wanted to show that as a single value, and then you're have it up to you as far as what you want to display in your environment. Going over here again, we just have simple searches that display important information for our management and C-suite. We have the most sold Silversmith product by product name, the least sold, so we know that, hey, this product might need some tweaking as far as research and development, so we can reintroduce it to the market and possibly see better gains as far as profit. Down here, we have different ways of showing data. Now we're getting into pie charts, and then we can see the breakdown for individual sections on that pie chart. And then we can even click into that and get more info on said category. We can adjust the look of that, bring it down where it's not as visible, bring it up where it's more to the forefront. And then this is the same info being displayed down here, but just in a different way. We now have that same data set in query, SPL query, just being displayed in a different way. Right here, we have it displayed as a heat map table, colorized, and everything you see here can be changed as far as the color scheme. So if somebody in your team is colorblind, you can adjust that so it's fairly accessible to everybody in the organization. And then again, we can click in to these categories and get more info on the events tied into that query. All right. Down here, we have the top 10 Silversmith products by sales count. And again, I can't stress this enough. Everything is just a query search. So what we seen on the dashboard is just a refined search query in my Splunk instance. And then I'm telling Splunk to then move that info into a dashboard. And then of course, at the very bottom, we have Splunk metrics to understand the health of our Splunk instance, not only for our security team, but management and ownership of our Splunk Enterprise instance. They need to know as far as if anybody might be trying to log into our Splunk instance that shouldn't have access. So if you can see right here, I definitely try to brute force my way into my account with different usernames, typo squatted my own username. And then you can see right here a heat map look as to how many times said user tried to get into the account, and then from what source IP address as well. And then to the left, we have more info regarding the components within, not right here, but this is the most common action by a user in our Splunk Enterprise instance. And then down here, we have the top Splunk internal components, so we can see how the health of our Splunk Enterprise account is doing on the back end. All right, so this was a brief overview of my Splunk Enterprise instance, what I built up for my Capstone 1 pitch and demo that I did okay on. I definitely feel like I could have practiced my pitch a little bit better, but there's always room for improvement. And this was my first time really building out Splunk instance to this degree. And I definitely want to thank my instructors and my cohort at ECA, Ellington Cyber Academy, because while I could have figured out how to do this on my own without being involved in the program, I wouldn't have been pushed to, for one, get a capstone where we're being asked to do something for a company. I wouldn't have had that exposure. So being involved in the program got me the experience to be able to build up a Splunk Enterprise instance like this from the ground up, from installing it on a virtual server, deploying it out, and then of course setting it up so I can access it from any device and interact with it, upload data, and then manipulate that data. So huge shout out to Justin, you know who you are, part of ECA Academy, and of course Kenneth Ellington for creating ECA, because without the program I definitely wouldn't have had this experience. I've struggled with Splunk for a long time, and I'm done with that. I'm diving in and I'm figuring it out. So like I said, I'm currently working on my next capstone where we're diving into knowledge objects. So once I get that built up, I definitely want to create a video going over that, knowledge objects, and how I came up with certain use cases to pitch for my second capstone. So if you made it to the end of this video, I definitely want to thank you guys. If you have any questions regarding my Splunk instance or Splunk in general, definitely drop a comment below. I'll definitely chime in to see if I can answer the question, and if I can't, figure out who can answer that question for you. Might be able to get you in contact with Kenneth, and you might be able to become a member of ECA as well. I definitely recommend it. I'm still in the program right now, and it's been a game changer for sure. All right, so don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Once again, I appreciate all the support. We're approaching 800 subscribers on the channel, and we're here. And I truly love all the support that we're receiving in the community. It's Top Cyber Dog. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.